licensee. Check all the boxes, right? I'm a firearms instructor. I'm very involved with the National Rifle Association. Have a position that's called RSO, Chief RSO. That's a person who is a Chief Range Safety Officer. That's someone who does supervise and overlook firearms training events at gun ranges. And wait, you did a signal. What did that mean? Well, let me see. Let me take a poll by the class. Okay, lights off. Yeah, we want to be in the dark. A whole bunch of strangers. Well, everyone's not strangers. Many of you I've met before at some portion or era of my life, man. And this whole walk with guns, is really interesting because believe it or not, maybe 20 years ago, I wasn't even really into guns per se. Not too many years before that, I had got married and bought a house. And, you do the things that people do when they get married and buy a house, man. First order of business was some of the elders in the family said, well, do you have a gun? And I'm like, nah. They were like, well, you're a homeowner, you're head of household, you have a family here. One of the chief, most important things that you as head of household, you need to do is you need to assure that you have an ability to protect everyone in your home. And the best way to do that, as I was told, was to buy a 12-gauge shotgun, right? And so that's what I did. I went to a gun range. I can't even remember the name of the gun range. They're not even open anymore. Was it Northwest Guns? Was there a place called Northwest Guns?
Are you talking about on Myers or something?
Yeah. And I bought a 12-gauge shotgun. And as I was given this shotgun, it was really a surreal experience because they brought this box out to me and they gave it to me and they were like going out of their way to make my purchase of this long box discreet with everyone watching me with this long box. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like, what in the world am I doing? Like I'm engaging in some socially unpopular behavior and they're trying to kick me out of the store. And so anyway, I bought the shotgun and called one of my uncles over. He came over and helped me put it together. It was my first puzzle, right? Put it together, showed me how to load it and chamber it. And he just basically said, look, man, if you ever perceive a need to use it, it's real easy. And this is what he said. He said, put the stock right in your shoulder and just aim it in the general vicinity and squeeze, right? And so yeah, that was my indoctrination. But other than that, I didn't really perceive a need. But I remember not too many years after that, I suffered the indignity of being robbed at gunpoint in my own driveway. And that literally was an event that for me was a personal moment. It caused me to take a look at this whole gun question a little more deeply and sincerely and ask myself, well, gee, why don't you have a pistol and a concealed pistol license? Back during this era, recently at this time, the gun rights community in Michigan in 2001, if I'm not mistaken, they recently revised the statute such that our concealed pistol licenses became shall issue. And some of you that have been around as long as I have, you know that before we got shall issue in 2001, we had this whole discretionary deal. And under this may issue discretionary deal, essentially anyone who was important got it. And if you weren't important, you didn't get it. Well, what do you mean by important? I mean by you are a recognizable figure. You hold a political office of some sort. If you're a celebrity, you're rich. You donate a lot of money to certain causes or to certain people and what they do. So yeah, they got them. And if you were not special, if you were not important, then no, you did not get one. And so I then embraced this whole shell issue thing. And at that time, I went ahead and I bought a gun, Northwest Guns. Had no idea what I was doing. The gun I ended up buying, probably wouldn't be the gun that I would buy now, but I bought something that was of decent quality. It didn't cost me too much money. And applied for a CPL. And the whole thing about that whole CPL deal, back in those days, man, you would apply for your permit and then they would tell you by mail like 11 months, a year later, hey, we approved you. And I'm like, oh, wow, I almost forgot that I actually applied for it. And that's kind of a sentiment, show you how things go in the circle. That's kind of where we are. I don't know if we're still there now or if we just recently passed through this era. But, I continued to walk the path and very involved with a lot of gun rights activities. One thing that gives me a lot of pleasure is that I've been able to call upon a lot of friends, a lot of fellow trainers, and a lot of range safety officers and a lot of sponsors to do a big thing for women every year. Training women with firearms. It's not a end to end, we're going to teach you everything about guns. It's more like a familiarization. Ooh, did I get all of those syllables? Familiarization of a gun and basic fundamental firearm safety rules. And after we do another iteration, I'm not quitting, I'm going to keep doing it. If we get at least another 1,500 women trained this upcoming July, the last weekend of July, whatever that date that is, we will have trained 10,000 women over the life of the program over its 13-year run. It'll be 13 years.
13 years already?
It'll be 13 years at the end of July next year. So, yes, question.
I attended it, so thank you.
You know what?
And I was hooked.
Really?
Well, it took, yep,
How long ago was that?
last summer.
Last summer. That was your first time?
Yep.
That was the first time you heard of it?
No, I was set up for last year, but I got real sick and couldn't attend.
Okay.
As soon as I saw it, I jumped right on it.
Oh, I'm glad you showed up because let me tell you.
My instructor, we chat, she's rock solid, I love her.
Well, let me tell you, and I truly mean this. Of anything I've done of a professional basis, like in terms of what I do with guns, that is single-handedly the most thing that I'm proud of in terms of an actual activity and in some material way giving back to the community. Because I'll tell you, just knowing that there are people out there who do nothing but prey upon people that they perceive to be weak, people who they see as an easy so-called score, someone that they can assault and otherwise victimize and not have any consequences. So yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to train women to deliver consequences for bad behavior. But other than that, the only other thing I had happen recently was back in April, I got elected to the National Rifle Association's Board of Directors. So I have my little pin. And here's the thing, winning, normally it's like a 3-year term. But during the official election, it's, the ballot comes in the monthly magazine. And if you're voting eligible, you'll get a ballot. And so I went through that whole campaign season. I'm saying, hey, vote for Rick, vote for Rick, vote. The election results were announced. I am proud to tell you, out of, 28 people who were running, only the top 25 actually get elected. Out of the 28 people who were running, I came in 28th place.
Yeah, but you got in.
It was, let me tell you, in all sincerity, all the time that I invested in campaigning and all that stuff, hey, vote for me, and meeting people and shaking hands and asking for votes. It was a very, in all truth, it was a very humbling experience. And I came in last, but you know what? I said, well, I'm going to the annual meeting. They have this thing called the 76th director. And the voting for the 76th director only happens at the annual meeting. And the people who show up who are NRA members, regardless of how many years they've been a member, regardless of how many years they've been in the organization, if they're NRA member, if they just joined yesterday, they can vote. And so what I did was I pounded the pavement and walked up to complete strangers and said, hey, I'm Rick Ector. Hey, I'm running for the board of directors. Vote for me. And some people said, sure. And then some people will say, hey, you know, I'm mad at the NRA. And I'm like, okay. I say, so what's your issue? And then we'll go through and talk. And then some people are like, I'm too busy. But here's the thing. You just keep going and you keep going and you keep shaking hands and you keep talking to people. And at the end of that weekend, I actually won the 76th director. So that for me was very satisfying. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. You all are here because obviously you have a desire to learn more about some legislation that actually passed here in the state of Michigan. This legislation actually passed a few months back. And the thing is that in my opinion, right, I'm very opinionated, in my opinion, there hasn't been a lot of media coverage one way or another to actually inform people that a lot of the legislation that a lot of gun people wanted actually passed. Now,
Because they want to catch everybody by surprise and start grabbing stuff.
Well, I don't know if necessarily if it's to catch anyone by surprise per se. The margin by which these anti-gun bills passed wasn't by a certain percentage. Okay. If it had passed by a certain percentage, and you know what, I should have looked up what that number was, but if it passed by a certain percentage, it would then have immediate effect. That is, once the governor signs it, okay, boom, it's the law from that second on. So the margin by which the law passed, it wasn't that great. So what happens is that after that session of the legislature, then you look at your calendar and count off 90 days. And then when you count off 90 days, that day is when those laws are actually live and when they actually will go into effect. And what did I do? I pulled out a calendar and I counted 90 days. 1, 2, all the way to 90. Guess what day is the 90th day? Valentine's Day. And I don't know if they calculated Valentine's Day, if they wanted to send a message in some way, fashion, or another. But Valentine's Day it is. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, when people are spending time with their significant other, exchanging cards and, you know, googly eyes at each other, that will be the day that these 3 gun laws will indeed go into effect. The one that I've been really fixated on for years has been, I shouldn't say years like it's been forever, but at least the last 4 years or so. This was when I first heard about this so-called red flag law. And as I was hearing information about it, I didn't really delve into it because I didn't have a perceived need to do it. It was just a buzzword or term that I've heard, and I didn't really pay it much mind. But it wasn't until a local state rep here in the Metro Detroit area, Robert Wittenberg, he went on, I guess, a little publicity campaign tour, and this was like 4 years ago. And he was basically trying to drum up a lot of media support, trying to tell everyone what red flags were. And I got a call from Fox 2, and they said, hey, Rick, you know anything about red flag laws? And I said, no, not particularly. I said, if you want me to comment, just give me a general sense of what this red flag law business is. And so he then proceeded to share what it was, and I had some reservations, and essentially, here's a speaker who's introducing me as I was speaking before the Southeast Michigan Tea Party talking about the red flag law. And I said, well, look,
In my opinion, this is one of the roundabout ways, one of the touchy-feely ways of who can be against that? Doesn't that sound reasonable? So at that, I'll call Mr. Ector up, and he will be speaking to us on the red flag laws, and hopefully get us a little bit more educated tonight.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How's everyone doing? No big tight enough to keep it away from my mouth, so I won't cross this. Moving. It is indeed my joy and privilege to be before you all today because I get to talk about a topic that means a lot to me. It means everything to me that we have the Second Amendment. And with having the Second Amendment, we have the ability to use our arms, whether they are firearms or some other useful tool to defend ourselves. You know, it wasn't too long ago where our access to arms here in certain areas of the state of Michigan were not very open. The process was not open to everyone to participate. Specifically, it wasn't until 2001 that our state, the state of Michigan, went to a process of issuance of concealed pistol licenses through a process which was uniform across the state. Before 2001, if you wanted to get a concealed pistol license, you had to qualify under a very non-uniform set of standards. For example, some counties, if you merely asked for a concealed pistol license, they would just give it to you. Other counties, the county in which I was born and raised for 52 years, Wayne County, the process was a little more onerous. You had to qualify. You had to be a person of means. You had to be important. You had to occupy a certain job. You had to make a certain amount of money. You had to be a person who fit this very narrow band of circumstances which conveniently excluded a lot of people. It was a very devious program. But it wasn't until 2001 in which we went to shall issue. And under shall issue licensing, anyone in the state of Michigan who was at least 21 years of age or older, who took a qualifying class and could pass a background check, the state of Michigan would give you a concealed pistol license. And it was a great day for the state of Michigan because we allowed a greater expansion of individuals to use firearms, to use arms to protect themselves and their families outside of their homes. And that was a great tool because I will concede that when I wasn't, just to be honest, I wasn't a real huge fan of guns. As a matter of fact, I was part of a generation in which the previous generation who had widely adopted this whole era of progress, you know, the civil rights movement, a lot of people just stopped giving importance to the Second Amendment as seeing it as being relevant. So around this era, 2001, I was working in corporate America for a while. I'd gone to school, graduated from college, and the only gun that I owned was a 12-gauge shotgun. The only reason why I owned that 12-gauge shotgun was because the elders in my family tree, they sat me down and said, "Hey, Rick, you are a man now. You own a home. You have a family. It is the man's job to protect his home. You need a 12-gauge shotgun." So I went out and bought a 12-gauge shotgun. Didn't learn how to load it, but I had shells in case I had to figure it out one day, just in case someone was trying to barge into my time after maybe a year and a half later, during the time of year reminiscent of today, when it gets dark in the early afternoon, say 5 o'clock or so, I was coming home from work, and as I was pulling my car into the garage, I started looking at all this weird stuff that seemed out of place. I started putzing around in the garage and putting stuff in various places. And once I was through rearranging things, I walked out of the garage and locked the door. And then to my surprise, there were two individuals I did not know who produced a firearm and pointed at me and announced a robbery. Well, that was a very pivotal moment in my life because it let me know that regardless of how great of a person I am, there are people out there who don't think very highly of me, people who are willing to take whatever I have because they have the means of exacting violence and using a gun to do that. And so in the aftermath of this violent encounter, I had a decision to make. My decision was whether I was going to embrace the option of exploring the Second Amendment and gun rights and gun ownership and see if it was something that could prove useful to me. And that's the great thing that I loved about individuals who cared about the Second Amendment is that they fight for it every day, not only for themselves, but for other individuals who go through an epiphany and who change their minds later. And so as a consequence of being robbed and adopting the Second Amendment and training and becoming a firearms trainer and a gun rights activist here in Detroit, there was a time in which I had a realization. And that realization is that guns is very important and that I need to take a more active role. I need to do more and to contribute and to make sure that the Second Amendment is there for other people. So it was in this path as a gun rights advocate that I received a phone call from a local TV station in the Detroit area, Fox 2, they're actually based in Southern. And they were doing an interview with State Representative House Rep Robert Wittenberg. And Robert Wittenberg had came up with this law, this proposed legislation that he was trying to get introduced in the Michigan House. And I had never heard of these so-called extreme risk protection orders, or what some people are referring to as red flag laws. And one of the things that the proponents of these red flag laws or extreme risk protection orders, they try to portray them as a panacea or as a cure-all for the things that ail us as a society. We know that in our society, in our cities, our towns, our counties, and within our state, there's a certain subclass of people who are very violent, who are bad, who are criminals. These are people who think nothing more of robbing and pillaging and victimizing their current fellow citizens for their pure selfishness, laziness, and evil. And they do it with impunity. The one thing that a lot of people are not aware of is that we have had two Supreme Court decisions that have made it extremely and abundantly clear as to whose responsibility it is to ensure your safety. These were two cases in which individuals were victimized. They were beaten, they were killed. Their families and their heirs wanted someone to answer for the heinous crimes that had been committed against their loved ones. In one case, someone had repeatedly called the police numerous times throughout the night, and the police failed to arrive in a timely fashion. The Supreme Court has made it abundantly clear that yes, someone is responsible for your safety. I will tell you, it is not the job of the government to protect you. That job, the job of protecting yourself and minimize the police or whatever it is. As a matter of fact, this is the result. And they're in the process of there are police officers allegedly who will not come to the aid of other police officers. Most assuredly, there's probably a few who won't come to your aid when you need assistance. Therefore, I very strongly encourage each and every one of you to take on a more active role in your personal protection. With respect to red flag laws, knowing that it is not the job of the government to protect you, they, however, do not want you to protect yourself. For whatever reason, they want you to be wholly dependent on the government for your protection. However, they are not legally authorized or legally responsible for providing it. So, red flag laws. What is this red flag law business? Last year, I received a call from Fox 2, that's the radio station for the CB, that's the Fox affiliate now. Showing my age now, this is a great era, and I remember when the networks were different call signs. But in any case, they wanted me to come down to the Fox 2 videos and listen to what they were talking about. They had State House Rep Robert Wittenberg down at Fox 2. He was talking about this great new legislation that's been sweeping the country by storm. As a matter of fact, as of this current date today, I looked at the latest stats. There are 17 states plus the District of Columbia, D.C., that have already adopted red flag laws as of August 1st of this year. There are 4 other states that have introduced legislation to explore adopting red flag laws in their state. Unfortunately, of those 4 states that are looking at adopting and implementing red flag laws, Michigan is one of them. Yes, we have elected officials here in this state, Mr. Robert Wittenberg and others, who are desiring to implement red flag laws here in our state. Well, gee, Rick, what is this red flag law business? When I was down at the Fox 2 station, he was being interviewed by the local TV station Fox 2, and they were asking him about red flag laws, and he's like, well, what is this stuff? Tell us about red flag laws. How great is it? And he was basically telling a great story. He was telling stories about there are people in our society who are bad folks who somehow are slipping through the cracks. They are presenting threats to our fellow citizens. However, they have done nothing wrong that rises to the level of law enforcement getting involved. And in this period or this state of uncertainty, when supposedly the law enforcement really can't do anything, these bad guys are killing and seriously hurting people. What these red flag laws, according to Wittenberg, would do would enact or provide an additional tool for law enforcement to keep all of us safe. He said that there's to a trial and to keep all of your rights until such time a jury of your peers has convicted you of a crime and made you eligible to be punished. But with red flag laws, that whole concept of due process is thrown out of the window. Essentially, with red flag laws, anyone, for whatever reason, and you know what? I don't want to waste your time and tell you all of the circumstances or scenarios that exist in our society in which people don't like each other. You know, it'd be great if we all loved each other and we all behaved nicely, but hey, let's face it, sometimes some people don't get along. Maybe I don't like you because you are of a certain political affiliation. Maybe you support, in my opinion, the wrong candidate. Maybe you vote the wrong way. Maybe, just maybe, you're anti-gun, or maybe you're pro-gun. Whatever the reason, I don't like you. I mean, I don't like your Facebook post. Maybe you said something that offended me. Maybe you posted something about cats and doing something bad to animals. I don't like you. Some things can just be innocuous jokes, and then some people take it the wrong way. In these states in which they have these red flag laws, something as simple as an apparent joke could be taken out of context, and the police can be contacted, and a red flag law proceeding can be initiated. Under this legislation proposed by Robert Wittenberg, someone can make a complaint against you. Gee, Rick, what types of people? This is a literal laundry list of people. I'm going to recite sound good. They use all of these weird terms, but guess what? They define those terms. And yes, it can be rather boring, but that's why we have coffee. Some of you saw me drinking coffee before I came up to the podium, to the microphone today. Drink coffee, read it. You can understand this. In this information age, any information that we desire to learn about is on the internet. Most of you have a device in your possession right now, a cell phone if necessary. Read and look this stuff up. Because for whatever reason, there is a group of people who are working very hard and very diligently to take away your guns. I believe I know what that reason is. That reason is they know that whatever their ultimate plan for us, they can't do it if you are armed. The idea, the goal is to disarm or to make you subject to having your arms taken away from you. Just think, all of you are here in this meeting today. You are all talking about quaint concepts and ideas such as liberty and freedom and justice. But what if your would-be overseers do not want you talking about such things? If you were subject to a red flag order, you could be silenced. You could have your guns and your right to dissent taken away from you. Heaven forbid we be one of those 17 states, along with the District of Columbia, in which the police, for whatever reason, after having determined that you should be subjected to a red flag, should have a pre-dawn raid executed upon your home, and if they don't kill you, they get to take away your guns and dare you to find or raise enough money to try to get your due process, to try to have your day.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis responded on
Bingo. So yeah, I first heard of this whole red flag business 4 years ago. And you know what? I still don't actually truly understand that they had the gall to come up with this stuff. And then I heard about other states. I think at the time that this recording was done, it was 17. I believe it is at least 22 now. And so these guys are still at it and they're still going for it. Well, gee, what does that mean for us? It means that we have a lot of provisions that we're looking at. Essentially, in my opinion, as I shared then, I still believe now, it could be politically motivated. You know, and they'll tell you, well, Rick, you know what, you're a conspiracy theorist. You know, you're half crazy. You're like off on the deep end. You're pro-gun all the time. And you think people just want to take your gun from you. You know, you're paranoid. Okay, well, fine. I'm paranoid then. But you know what? I still, on its face, I even wonder why they even needed to enact it. We already had tools to have you picked up anyway. Well, gee, maybe it's not because they truly want to protect people. Maybe they really do want to disarm you. Because there's nothing in the red flag provision that is about getting you some help. It's not. It's about taking your gun and leaving you there. And in the aftermath, now you have to actually mount a defense to something you haven't even been technically convicted of. It's a mere allegation. Someone swore in court. Yeah. It could be a lie. It could be devoid of truth. But yeah, and that stuff costs money. And it's going to cost time. And once they get this order on you, if you don't successfully beat it back legally in court, it's going to be enforced for that year. Okay? And then you'll have to see if you've been a good little boy or a good little girl for the last 12 years, And if the person who instituted this red flag against you, if they want to explore renewing it because you're still a bad person. So yeah, am I against this stuff? Yeah, I am, totally. But as I stated before, it's adopted, it's enacted, and it goes into force on Valentine's Day. I believe that that was strictly coincidental. I can't imagine that that they actually intended for that to be the actual date that the law actually goes live. But it is what it is.
That was her Valentine to us.
To us, right?
To us. So we all sell our rifles before the 14th.
You know, sell rifles for the 14th.
I'm gonna get rid of all mine.
Right. You know, also another law that got implemented was this whole thing about purchase permits. I mean, they've always have been there, at least since I can recall. And if I recall correctly, these pistol purchase permits came in vogue in 1927, the Michigan Firearms Act of 1927. It's like, gee, Rick, well, how can you remember that? Well, being involved with the gun rights community, you know, I've done some research on these gun laws and actually understanding where they came from. You know, there was a very interesting case that happened, get this, in the city of Detroit in 1925. This was the Ossian Sweet case. Not sure if you all are familiar with this, but it's a gentleman, African-American man who went down south. I believe he went to Morehouse College in the South. He completed his education. He was trained, Howard. He was trained in medicine. He became a doctor, and he wanted to come back to Detroit, and he wanted to provide some service to his community. And it was underserved, and a lot of people needed his services. And eventually, he built a rather thriving practice. And as a person who goes off to school and they start a profession, they make some money, they acquire status in the community, there's nothing wrong with someone wanting to enjoy the fruits of their labor. And so what he wanted to do, he wanted to move. He wanted to buy a property in a nicer neighborhood. The neighborhood that he chose had what was called deed restrictions. That is, in the law during that era, if you were well, be quite blunt, if you were black, they wouldn't sell you the house. Things that pretty much are illegal today, but anyway, he found a motivated seller who didn't care who he sold the house to. All he knew was that the money was green, and he took it, and he sold the house. And once the Sweet family moved into their home, they had a feeling that people in that community weren't going to be happy about it. Undeterred, he and individuals from amongst his friends, I believe there were 4 or 5 other family members that joined him. They proceeded to move into the residence. And on that evening, there were a lot of people in the neighborhood who weren't too happy about it. And then it became a nightly occurrence where there were huge mobs outside of his home. And it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe not even a week in, that someone had the unmitigated gall and the audacity to fire a gun into their window. And of course, Dr. Sweet and his fellow friends who were there, they were armed. They did what anybody else would do. They defended themselves. And they actually shot back. And in shooting back, there were 2 individuals who were hit. At least one of those persons died. Believe it or not, there was a cadre of police who were also stationed at the scene. And they actually witnessed the assault upon the residents, and they witnessed the response. Immediately, the police stormed the home and they arrested everyone that was in the home. And as they did that, we didn't have such provisions in the law that we have today, right? Today, if you're arrested, you at least have the presumption of innocence. You have a right against self-incrimination. That is, that you can't be compelled to testify against yourself. That did not exist back in 1925. So if they wanted to talk to you, they talked to you, and they could coerce you if they wanted to. And they underwent a lot of scrutiny, a lot of examination, a lot of pressure. And based on what was revealed during this investigative process, Dr. Sweet himself was put on trial. And it was considered by many people to be the trial of the century back in 25. But Dr. Sweet was represented by a criminal defense attorney. His name was Clarence Darrow, who was a leading criminal defense attorney. I believe one of his most famous cases was the so-called Scopes trials. The NAACP, believe it or not, was principally charged with raising money to afford the services of his legal team. And believe it or not, once the trial adjourned, a jury, an all-white jury, actually acquitted Dr. Sweet of all charges against him. In the aftermath of this trial, the Michigan legislature in 1927, just 2 years after Dr. Sweet's exoneration, I'm pretty sure if you guys have ever looked up gun laws that are on the state of Michigan's website, you'll see the Michigan Firearms Act. You'll also see that it was enacted in 1927. And in 1927, there were a ton of laws that actually went onto the books. One of those laws that went on the books was handgun registration, right? If you had a handgun, you had to get it registered. And yes, that handgun registration law is still on the books. And get this, by virtue of the law that was passed by, yes, our state legislature recently that will take effect on this upcoming Valentine's Day. Remember, Valentine's Day. On Valentine's Day, we will need to also, in addition, register our long guns, our shotguns, and or our rifles. I know a big question a lot of people have been asking is, well, gee, Rick, do I have to register all of my long guns? No, you do not. Some people like to refer to it as a grandfather clause. I understand what the reference means. I just don't understand the reference, you know, like why did they call it that as opposed to calling it anything else? So if you have any long guns, if you have any shotguns that you currently own, then yes, you do not need to now register them. However, after this law goes into effect, what day does this law go into effect? Valentine's Day, right? We'll never forget that. Valentine's Day of 2013. We will now need to, 2024. Did I say 23? Did I? I said 2013. Please excuse me, I'm 56 years old, right? Next year, 2014, February 14th.
That's if you buy a new gun that's on the books.
If you're buying a brand new gun, say for example, if you come to this gun shop, Recoil Firearms in Taylor, Michigan, on February 14th, because you want to buy your sweetheart a gun of any type, especially a long gun now, they will need to actually register that gun, right? You guys are all set up to start registering guns, or?
Actually, most gun shops have.
And you know, that's one of the interesting things. As a matter of fact, I had the audacity to call a Sokol Metro Detroit police agency that I'm adequately familiar with, Detroit. And I called their public information line because obviously I didn't have an emergency to report. And so I was talking to the officer to answer the phone. I said, so when does this new long gun, rifle, shotgun registration law go into effect? He said, sir, you don't need to register long guns. I said, yeah, I know. I said, there was a law that changed not too long ago, and from what I've been able to research and understand, on Valentine's Day, this new law will require for any new long gun that you buy, you will need to fill out paperwork and register it with the local law enforcement agency. It was like, no, sir, that's not true. This is America. And no, he started reading me the right on the Second Amendment. As being a citizen of this country, you have an absolute right to keep and bear firearms. And then at that point, you know, I wasn't in a place where I wanted to start a debate or in a place where I wanted to educate him on what was going on. It basically dawned on me that law enforcement agencies, I'm not going to say that they don't know. I'm quite aware that they know. Basically, a lot of them know. However, it's not at the officer level. From my media sources, and what do you mean your media sources, right? I know a few people in the media, and I was actually trying to garner some publicity for this class this weekend. And they were like, gee, Rick, you know, it's a great idea. He said from, you know, all the people that I've talked to in different jurisdictions, they're all aware of the fact. And between this trio of laws, they are literally scrambling in terms of not just understanding the law, those laws, but the administration of those laws and what type of operating process and procedures that they're going to implement to make these laws real, to actually implement them throughout their departments. So they know, and a lot of people don't know. If you were to actually call Detroit Police Department and ask them, they would tell you, no, sir, there's no such law on the books. It's not that there's some ill intent at play. It's just that they have not communicated that information to the people on the phone, at least on the day that I called, right? So be it.
So a long gun's gonna require a permit like a pistol does now. You have to fill out.
Yeah, right now it's called an RI-60. What they're going to call it now, I have no idea.
It's going to be a firearm register.
It might be instead of pistol purchase permit, probably be a firearm purchase permit. And the term firearm, right? A firearm is a pistol, rifle, and or shotgun.
So, but your handguns, you gotta re-update them again or no?
No.
They already have that on record already.
The only time your currently owned and possessed pistols will possibly be subject to registration is if the ownership of that gun transfers. That is, if you were to sell it, or heaven forbid you pass away and your heirs acquire it, you know, so. And then some people have had some really interesting questions. They're like, well, gee, Rick, how would someone know in the government if, say, someone in right, you know the question, right? They acquired a gun after the date and then say that they bought it, you know, 6 months ago.
They're not gonna know.
I don't know.
Weren't they trying to put in there where you had to take a gun if you're selling a rifle or whatever, and you had to go to a gun shop and have them do the sailing and stuff, the sales for you? Did that ever get put into that?
I didn't see that in the statute.
Private sales or private sales?
Private sale.
You have to go to the police station, get a purchase permit.
You'll get a firearm purchase permit.
Or through a gun store, through a gun show. Everything else is gonna remain the same when you come to an FFL dealer.
But here's the thing, you could do that way ahead of time and say, yeah, well, that was done years ago.
That's what I thought.
See, you still can't do that.
I thought, just give it up.
I did that, I sold.
Look. I'm not floating any ideas on any circumventions that
I sold that to him years ago.
some people are entertaining. I mean, it is what it is. Did you say something?
She was saying that
The 10-day rule,
They're dated, you only have so many days to use it before it becomes invalid.
10 days.
yes, 10 days.
Is it 10 days? Okay.
Days on purchase permits.
Like it used to be years ago with the handgun, same thing. You used to go to the police department.
Yeah, they used to be 10 days. I believe they're
10
going to
days,
they're going to
10
30 days now. So February 14th, Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day.
But to be clear, any currently owned long gun does not have to be registered as long as you're the owner and you bought it.
Correct.
New. New is when you're gonna have to do it.
He's talking about a gun that you currently own. You're buying something brand new. Say, for example, you know what? We should do like a buy a firearm day right here at Recoil
14.
Firearm. No,
Before the
no, we're going to buy one on Valentine's Day. Huh? Buy two. Why buy two? Tell you what. Let's take.
They weren't replaced, they were, a lot of the.
Let's make it a 10-minute break. I need to make a quick pit stop, and we'll get picked up.
I've known you, some intense things happen. I'm not pointing.
I hope things don't
No, no.
be as intense as you recall them.
At 2 in the morning, I texted you saying, was a couple days ago, when I read your Facebook thing, I'm like, I have 3 rifles, but all bought in Florida, so I.
Oh, right. We did take. See, I was like sleep deprived. I was sleep deprived. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Because I sent you, I think, 3 messages at all your spots.
I know. At least they were all together though. They weren't like spaced hours apart, right? Like, oh my God, here he is.
And I'm like, maybe he's
No, but
asleep,
seriously,
maybe
as
he's
an open invitation, if any of you ever have any question about guns, gun laws, I mean, feel free to text me.
Do you have a card?
You know what? I'm expecting some cards, which is why I didn't order any extra cards, right? I just got elected to the board, right? And so they put all my information on my card. What they're going to probably do is we have a board meeting on January 2nd. So I imagine they're just going to give them to me instead of shipping them to me. Cost savings, right? The organization needs to save money, right? Right. So,
I don't, and because I'll be calm afterwards. So.
oh yeah, I'm not in a
from
rush.
What I'm hearing you saying then, so I don't have to register my three long guns
That you currently own.
that I've owned for 6 months.
That you fine.
Yeah.
You're
Or
fine.
that you buy before Valentine's.
Afterwards, more private stuff.
So
Everybody wrote down by one.
Oh, thank God.
the other statute that we're going to talk about is listen to me having a senior moment.
Welcome to my world.
There, we talked about red flag.
Oh, keeping
Storage, yeah. And I'm going to take a more detailed talk about storage because that's going to be a very serious thing and a lot of things that we need to be apprised of through a few unfortunate incidents that occurred, you know, in the state, which they're using as political cover to justify, you know, this new legislation. But right now, what I want to do is I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to at least present to you all the importance, the absolute importance of having a plan about this red flag business. Usually when I teach gun classes, I usually give a more exhaustive, detailed legal talk about everything that every gun owner, particularly a CPL holder, is going to know. You know, CPL applications, obviously detailed conversation about lethal force, you know, when you could use it. But, you know, one of the things that I always talk about in that class in the legal section is to talk about in the aftermath of a legal shooting. In the aftermath of a shooting, you're going to be in a very precarious set of circumstances. And this is regardless of the actual particulars. This is regardless of actually what happened. You know, say for example, someone presented you with a credible threat of death, great bodily harm, or sexual assault. And if you use lethal force, if you watch like a commercial movie, you know, and I'm thinking of Die Hard for some reason or another, right? Bruce Willis's character, he's bloody, he's got bare feet, he doesn't have any socks or shoes on, and he's standing on the window ledge and he's dancing, you know, to this song and music playing in his head. And as that whole scene ends, then the credits start rolling. And when the credits start rolling, okay, end of movie, everyone clean up after yourself, pick up your popcorn and your pop, and you leave the movie. But in actual reality, if you use lethal force, that's when the next movie starts. And in this sequel, what's going to happen is you speaking with law enforcement or not speaking to law enforcement based on what you've been trained to do. This is when this next movie is going to proceed with an investigation being done on you, done on the circumstances of your use of lethal force, and them preparing a packet to your local county prosecutor to determine if your actions were lawful or not. with that in mind, I always present to my students that they should have a plan should they ever need it. That is, if they are ever forced to defend themselves. Personally, I would hope that no one would actually need to defend themselves. But you know what? It could happen. And to be forewarned, as the quote goes, is to be forearmed. With this new legislation that has been adopted and enacted by the state legislature, particularly with red flag laws, some of you may have been wondering, well, gee, what's the best course of action now that we are living in this new environment? The first thing that jumps out at me is obviously, and this is just strictly from my personal view, is in light of these new legal changes, just take a moment and ponder the state of your relationships that you have with people. I'm not necessarily talking about so-called intimate partners. I'm talking about anyone, your neighbors, people you might meet on the street, certain altercations that might happen. Any of these incidents could trigger some type of interaction, which if presented to the legal community, someone might take it upon themselves to portray you as an undiagnosed threat. And who knows how that threat is communicated in paper, and who knows what happens once that complaint is submitted, and who knows whether you could be subject to a red flag order. So other than just telling you to be nice to people and to be non-confrontational, I wanted to at least present to you all something that could prove to be very helpful to you if, in the worst possible set of circumstances, you find yourself in an altercation of some sort or interaction of some sort, and now you have to wonder how you're going to deal with this red flag law business, okay? You're going to need legal representation. You're going to need someone to come to your defense in a timely basis. You're only going to have a limited amount of time, if it's given to you at all, in the aftermath to present a defense to take down this red flag order. Having said that, I invited a special guest speaker, Kyle Swims from Firearms Legal Protection, to give us a presentation on some legal aspects and considerations in your potential defense. So give him a warm welcome. Kyle Swims.
Thank you. How y'all doing so far today? Y'all learning some good stuff?
A little more relaxed.
Y'all feel confident? Y'all feel like this is some good stuff that's coming to Michigan? No, not at all, right? Now you got CPL holders, you guys are already carrying yourselves, most of you.
Show of hands, how many people have CPL?
So who does have a CPL?
Okay, so just about everybody. I should ask, who doesn't have a CPL?
Who doesn't have a CPL? Y'all got some sort of protection yet? Who do you guys got? Firearms legal protection. Who you got? Same? What about you guys? Y'all got firearms? Who doesn't have any sort of coverage? Just a couple of you. Well, I think I'm here to just mainly talk to you guys, but I'm still going to talk to you guys just to make sure you understand everything about us and our company and who we are. So yeah, we're a company who is there mainly target CPL classes, want to go after people who are out there carrying. But the big thing is to help people in the aftermath portion of being involved in a self-defense situation. Now, with what you guys are here for today, red flag law, we're the only one of the only companies who actually offers protection against red flag law, all right?
With the basic package?
All three packages, yes, we do cover red flag law. So when it does come here to Michigan, yeah, we'll be there to take care of you. Now, we also cover, which most of you know, uncapped attorney fees for criminal cases, civil cases, if you guys are ever involved, ever in a self-defense situation involving any legal weapon. Our biggest thing is to be there to make sure that we take care of you guys in that aftermath portion. So a lot of you guys are already aware of it, But for you guys, you know, it's very, I always look at it like, kind of like car insurance. I don't want to be out there. I carry every single day. I don't want to be out there walking around without some sort of protection. And now with these new red flag laws coming to Michigan, trust me, I got a lot of people I know, and if I piss off one person in the wrong way at all, that's the last thing I want is for somebody to come after me, all because of something that had nothing to do with my firearm. So I love knowing that FLP is going to be there to make sure that they're there to take care of us. Now, we do have a couple different plans that we offer. So for you guys, like this lady back here was talking about, basic plan. We got 3 different plans. Individual basic starts off $9.95, gives you and only you coverage in your home state. And that's where those legal fees come into play. We give you uncapped attorney fees for your criminal case, civil case, and like I said, we cover red flag law as well. Want to make sure you guys have protection against all that. Now, like I said, we cover you in any self-defense situation involving a legal weapon. Anything in this room could be used as a legal weapon. Your vehicle, somebody's shooting at you, you gotta run them over. Legal weapon in self-defense. Pets, somebody attacks you, you gotta unleash your pet on them. Guess what? It's a legal weapon in self-defense. We'll give you coverage against all of that. Our premium plan, $21.95, covers you and only you in all 50 states. If you guys are traveling, give us a call. You can swap over to that plan. That one, you get everything under the basic, plus we give up to $250,000 in bail coverage. Anything up to that, we get you out. A lot of people, if you ever have to deal with something inside your home, we also deal with the cleanup. We hire the companies that to come out and clean up your home, Servpro, Belfort, places like that. We'll take care of those. We'll get them out your house, get it cleaned up. If you guys are ever involved in something, this is where the firearm confiscation comes into play. A lot of times, police are going to confiscate your firearms. We fight for 6 months to get them back for you after your cases are over. If we can't get them back within 6 months, cut you a check up to $1,000 to replace those firearms, all right? We don't want you missing out on your favorite guns you guys got to either use or have ever taken away in a red flag case. We offer $1,500 in lost wage reimbursements during trial periods. I want to make sure you have some extra cash coming in. And a big thing, counseling support. We also offer counseling support if you guys are ever involved in something. We want to make sure that we take care of you. Now our family plan that we have, that covers you and a significant other. Don't need to be married. Also covers children 17 and under inside of the household. They will get all of that great coverage, all right? So I know a lot of you guys know about it. I'd love to just make sure I can answer any questions for you guys over here if you guys are, or if you guys have any questions about red flag or what we cover as well, I'd love to just answer some of you guys' questions that you might have.
Is that just for one weapon at a time, or is that all the weapons that they'll confiscate because of a single shooting?
Yeah, so it's up to $1,000. That's our max. Yeah.
So if you got $20,000 worth of weapons, you're at a loss.
Yep. But we'll try to get you something, but we try to get them back if we can for you. We'll do whatever.
Do you pick the attorney, or does?
That's a great question. So as soon as you call the number that's on the back of the card that I give you, an attorney answers the phone. Attorney-client privilege kicks in right away. Say whatever you want. You can't use that phone call against you. And we dispatch out the local attorney who's on call to you, all right, in your area. Now, if you're not a fan of that attorney, you can look at who else we have under contract with us. You can even do it before ahead of time, so you kind of have an idea of who you might want to go with if you are involved in something. And if you're not a fan of any of our attorneys, bring us your own. We vet them. As long as everything checks out, put them under contract, you're getting all the same coverage.
Because in this area, isn't Terry Johnson one and James Malkowski one?
Yeah, so Terry Johnson, he's not with our company anymore. He doesn't work with us anymore. He ventured off to do his own things.
Okay.
But if you do want to use Terry Johnson, absolutely, we can put him back under and just use that. You can still get that coverage. Yeah, Terry's good. Terry's good people. Yeah. What's that? His sons, yeah. Spencer, that's my immediate boss. He's got promoted to the new position, director of sales. So yeah, he's a busy man. So, you know Spencer? Yeah. Yeah, good people. So yeah, we give you every option available to win your case. We want you to have all those choices available.
Regarding the red flag laws, am I to understand that somebody can just anonymously say, like, for example, we had a disagreement with someone several years ago, and there's always had that thought that he's gonna retaliate by calling up and say,
Yeah.
hey, this guy's got a bunch of firearms, he's a scary guy, I've heard him make threats to
The
people.
more guns you own, the scarier you are.
Yep. And that's the question. So if they, I guess my question is they don't have to leave their name and number. I'll never find out who did it.
Correct.
That's the way it works.
You have to prove that you're not mentally insane. They don't have to prove that you are. You're
They
the
just
one
need to
that
make the call.
just the call.
That just throws out the laws of innocent until proven guilty.
100%. We are guilty until we're proven innocent, especially with those red flag laws. And that's insane. That you can just, anybody can just call and you say it makes something up.
That's what I was gonna ask, you mean anybody?
I can do it. We have a relationship now. As stupid as that is,
That's
they do
exactly-
not define what a relationship
That's
is.
exactly what I was gonna ask. Can I go and call?
This guy can call you, it doesn't matter. Y'all understand? You have a
I
relationship.
can call this guy up in the front row and just say, hey.
Co-workers, neighbors, anybody.
That would be, they could call on a license plate.
An ex, yeah, even
And
an
just report
expert.
your license plate and probably get you in
Let
trouble.
somebody off or something.
Most likely, yeah. This person was cussing me off, threatening me. Yeah, absolutely. It's stupid.
Does it have to, I mean, if it goes to court, isn't there something that backs it up that says, hey, we have to know for sure that this was an anonymous call, this guy just wanted to get back at
No,
somebody?
you have to go.
You're screwed.
You're screwed. You have to hire and pay for counseling and go through all the requirements to get documentation and proof that
That's enough to make someone.
you're sound.
That's
It makes me want to go out,
Yeah.
and now I actually,
If you-
yeah.
yeah.
Now you know what? Since I'm going through it, let's go
Yeah,
through
yeah,
it for
let's-
real, right? Let's make it
Let's
worth
make it worth
it.
my money.
Let's make it worth it. Yeah, exactly. Now you know that. Now if they prove that, if they say that no, you're not fine. No, you can't possess firearms. You have to wait a year before you can try again. Go through the entire thing all over. Then it's 3 years. Then it's 5. And then you're done.
And it doesn't matter if you got a CPO or not, that has
Doesn't matter.
nothing to do with it.
Doesn't matter. You have to go and go through all that.
What is the process to, I guess, to defend that you are the, well, if somebody makes an anonymous call, the police are gonna come to your door, is that what's gonna happen?
Yeah, they're just gonna come without a warrant and say, give us absolutely everything that you have to do with firearms. Firearms, magazines, ammo, everything. Lasers, everything.
Anything in your house or those in your name?
Anything in your house, I think.
Because you have adult children living with you.
Oh,
under
no,
their
it's-
own name.
It's yours. It's what's for you.
Right.
Yeah, if it's all under registered. Yeah, they have their own registered, yeah, that's all for them. But anything that's in yours, in your possession, yeah, give it to us.
And that makes no sense either, because you give him all your guns, but your son lives with you and he's got 3.
Pray to God you don't,
The more I learn about this, the more stupid.
upset a family member
Or
who
just
knows everybody in the household has guns and makes a claim that the whole family was threatening me. You know, it could be that
goes to the
stupid.
spouse as well, because I can walk out the house and take my wife's gun. And
Yeah.
by law right now, that's okay.
Yep.
Because
She
we're in the
gives you
same
permission.
house. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. That, yeah.
Or if you got somebody else's gun you're storing at your house. That don't make no sense, right? That's crazy.
You're gonna lose it, you gotta get it back.
Can we move to a different state? It doesn't have to be in my name.
Right.
So if I had, say for instance, he came over, he left his firearm there. So would they take that? Because there's a firearm in my possession.
Whether they can do so legally or whether they take it anyway.
Yeah, that's the question.
Right, they'll do it anyway.
See, because what I say they can and can't do isn't what they're actually gonna do.
Right.
The big question is, will you ever get it back?
That's true too.
Very slim.
As a matter of fact, offhand, there was a news story just.
They've been fighting to change that law, and I thought it was changed.
Is it gonna be like you're getting your car impounded?
What's that?
Where they charge you?
No, it's just that it's very,
Not
just
yet.
the process you have to go through to get it back. It takes years.
Yeah, there's a guy in California.
Like he was saying, this guy.
He got into it with one of his employees, and they took his under red flag law. And he went through the process. The courts deemed him mentally sound and that he could have his firearms, but it took him 3 years to get his firearms back.
I don't wanna wait 3 years to get my firearm.
In some cases where they went to go get their guns back, the law enforcement accidentally
Destroyed them.
Yeah, that's the big one. That's a big excuse I hear. Oh, I'm so
I've heard
sorry,
that
your
one too.
paperwork got mixed
And we
up.
can't
We
find it.
accidentally sent yours to the
find it.
incinerator instead
They
of
were
some-
auctioning stuff
And don't know
off.
what to tell you. Sorry about your luck. But if you fill out these 20 pages, go to this place, fill out another 20 forms, you might get some money back for it. But yeah,
No,
They
they
would-
take
they
it
would
back.
spend
auction
days and
stuff
days.
off.
Yeah, what's that?
They would auction stuff off.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they filed a claim or the law, or the
Sticky
insurance
fingers.
stuff
Don't
to
they
stop
take
that
it
crap,
back?
because they were using it just to gain money.
Because you're gonna be flagged not being able to buy a gun.
Yep, and that's the thing. You know, a lot of people get charged with felonious stuff, and you can't even.
You can't buy
get
them.
another firearm.
Would you lose your CPL if they're during the course
Every
of-
case is different. Every case is different, you know. But a lot of times people get charged with felonious stuff, and that you can't be a felon and have possess firearms. So a lot of people lose their CPLs, lose their jobs.
Wait, what was that specific question you asked?
If you, during the course of this red flag, somebody comes, do they automatically,
You're gonna lose your CPO.
they take it even if you're not
Yeah.
even gone to court
You're
yet?
You're gonna lose your CPO.
So then you gotta wait until that's all over with to try to go through the process. It's just another way to hinder on gun rights. Instead of coming directly for them, which they cannot do, well, let's figure out other ways
This is how they
around.
want to disarm.
And make it a hell.
Even if it's slowly.
Just like Australia and UK, this is how.
It's a slow process, but trust me, they're in it for the long haul, man. They'll do whatever it takes. And
Hide your
so,
guns.
yeah, so we're here to just try to fight against all that and give you guys a fighting chance to be able to keep defending yourself and protect your homes.
What if the person, this may be just obscure, but
No, please.
it's a red flag law, so somebody's gonna report, like I just call anonymously and report you, there's a problem, you need to take your guns. What if I'm calling someone who doesn't have guns?
They'll probably still come in your house.
Yeah, they'll still check.
Right, so I
Still
just
check.
call
Just
them-
want to know if you have anything that could harm themselves, harm you. They could
Right,
just
so-
say, "Hey, we got to take you. You know, you're
So-
a threat to yourself.
So
Somebody else, we need to
so
get
if
you."
you are not a CPL holder, if you are not a gun owner, somebody can still call a red flag on you, even though you have
It's
no
still that
firearms.
you are.
Well, I mean, they have
because-
to go in and see if you have them, right?
What I'm saying, but-
Prove it. They gotta prove it.
So even if you
Just
don't have any
saying,
firearms.
But you might.
Yeah.
But if you have pistols,
They
they
still
know
doesn't
they
matter.
can go in your
They're gonna
house.
search
see
your
that you
home.
don't.
It's just
No,
you
they know that
saying.
before
Just you
they
saying.
go
I
in.
don't. How do I know?
Yeah,
I don't know.
pistols,
Who's the next
yeah,
person?
but rifles,
They're gonna come
up until February 14th.
without a warrant, signed evidence.
You might not own it.
Judges don't. And judges, a lot of.
No one can prove that you don't have something.
Just wondering,
I'm just-
So why not they just come over and look and see?
That
I'm
would
just
cover,
curious
that
as
would
the
cover nights.
system,
But the red flag laws,
gets implemented,
as far as the threat.
if there are people who are trying to do this to folks who do have guns.
couldn't find.
Mainly.
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 What
Yeah.
if,
But
what
yeah, they gotta prove it. You have to prove that you don't.
but what if someone's, since it's anonymous and there's no repercussions, someone started making those calls on folks that do not have guns? And the system now gets backed up with people because they're making all these calls on folks and most of them don't have firearms in the first place.
Well, see, in this is where I've kind of like stated earlier. See, here's the thing. There's no possible way that you can cover any potential contingency, okay? In each specific case, which is why I at least want to provide you with information on a resource that when a situation rears its ugly head, there's at least somewhere you can go and some resource that you can utilize. You could come up with 1,000,001 different potential scenarios with different aspects being in play.
Oh, we can do this all day and have fun with it.
At the end of the day,
Absolutely.
you got a big legal mess that you're in.
That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And that's where the nightmare begins.
And that's where the nightmare begins, and how bad could it could get pretty bad. Probably the worst situation to be in is wanting to have access to your firearms and not having access to the legal system, or having access to an attorney, or having access to explore your redress through the courts. You might be 100% in the right, innocent, until you prove it after the fact. You're still going to be punished. And yes, there's a process by which to appeal a red flag law seizure, but you need to go through the court, and it's going to cost you. And unfortunately, this is the situation we're in. And let me tell you, I find it absolutely detestable. I use the word evil all the time, where people accuse me of being, over the top.
I'm just picturing the pushback. We who are firearms owners, we're definitely pushing back.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
trying to imagine the pushback
This
when
is-
folks who don't own firearms start having red flag calls on them for no reason, and the system winds up getting inundated with folks calling, reporting folks for no reason. So now the whole system is jammed up because they have to investigate every one of those calls, right?
Just take
So-
a group of hunters alone.
So, no, I'm saying, what if someone called the non-hunters?
Right,
What
right.
if there's a group that just
Right.
called
Just
the
making
folks
it
at
up,
a
just
church?
making it up.
What if folks just called all the people in the Congress? What if they just, a whole list of people, all this investigation have to happen. So the system, this whole system mechanism they put in place would kind of grind to a halt because it would just be too many to investigate.
That's an interesting scenario, but instead of us trying to save the world, what I want to do is put the focus on all of us as individuals. If we are in a position where we currently own firearms and we like having access to them,
Yes.
well, worst case scenario, if I or you or anyone get red flagged, what options are available to us in that moment then to seek redress? Okay?
100%.
Just as a resource, I'm doing this presentation telling you the worst thing that could happen. What are some things you could do? I even threw out earlier that evaluate the people that you have in your inner circle, the people you associate with. Evaluate how you resolve conflicts and conversations and discussions and all of that so that you won't even potentially get here. Once you get here, well, what are you going to do now? Hopefully, you'll have access to some service to help you get out of it the best way you can. And Kyle, where exactly were you?
Yeah, just about done. One thing I do love about our company, you guys have a lot of great questions, so these do continue, and even for you guys that are signed up, you guys can always call customer service, or you can go on our app, and you can write in any questions that you have an attorney answer those questions for free. We really, really care about you guys. We'd love to make sure that you guys are well educated out there and you have all that knowledge, especially when you guys are out there carrying that firearm. That's our biggest thing, is we want to be here to make sure that we take care of you guys in the unfortunate event that you guys ever have to go through something, or when this red flag law does come through to Michigan, if you guys are ever involved in something, we want to be there to take care of you guys. Now for you guys that are here today, I'd love to get you guys signed up, get y'all locked into some good coverage. If you guys are interested, I got some paperwork I just need you to fill out. We can bring you guys on board to make sure you guys have some protection.
You mentioned going out of state, that you should call the company and notify the company?
You can switch to the premium plan. So if you can switch between all three of our plans. The premium covers you in all 50 states. So a lot of people sign up just on the basic plan. It only covers them in Michigan. And then when they go out of state, call us up, switch to the premium, just to make sure that you have coverage in all 50 states. And you're locked into all three of our discounted prices. You can swap back and forth as many times as you want between the plans. You stay at those rates. I got people working out of state. They go back and forth between the basic and the premium just to make sure that they got coverage.
No, I went to Texas a couple of years, 2 years ago, and I was just told, avoid getting out of the car in
Illinois, yeah. So all the blue states recognize the Michigan CPL. So I can carry in any one of the blue states, but I just have to follow their laws still. And in one of the red states, they do not recognize the Michigan CPL. So any blue state you can travel to with your firearms.
Illinois, you
That's the reciprocity.
Yes, but you can't.
Once you get out the car,
Once your feet hit those grounds. Yeah.
So that has to do with reciprocity, right? In
Yes.
those states you
Yes.
carry because, okay.
Yes. Yes, that's reciprocity. See, they still got to follow their laws and all that. But yeah, once you're in those states, yeah, you're good to go in the blue ones. Just don't carry in those red states. They are very anti-firearm. For you guys, anything I can keep going for you? You guys think you're good? What about you guys?
We're all right.
Think you're all right? No worries, no worries.
So basically, let's say at 4 in the morning or 2 in the morning, I would be normally up because that's my.
That's your go time?
No, but I'm sitting, watching TV, let's say, and my sidearm is on my coffee table. So if somebody kicks down my front door, the first thing I'm gonna reach is for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rick says, well, you can get shot for, because I don't know who's coming through the door. I wouldn't expect police to be coming to see me. But, oh my God, the things that just go through your head.
Yeah, there have been a lot of times where, there was one where somebody thought he heard something and it was clear in his house, right? Well, he called 911. First thing he did, call 911, I think somebody's breaking into my house, send the police right now. I'm going to go investigate. Got off the phone. Well, he didn't know that there was a breaking and entering crew that was going around the neighborhood. So police were already in the neighborhood, campus in the area. They got there like that. Well, he's inside clearing his house. Well, they didn't know that. He's shining his gun, looking around. Well, he sees somebody, a shadow walking outside. They see a light come out. Start shooting into the house. Thought it was a bad guy. Homeowner got shot because of it. Too many times because the police aren't the best about notifying you of who they are.
But
especially 2:30 in the morning, you know.
Too, but I can see both sides.
Yeah, so you gotta be careful and who is it, you know, and be cognitive and be aware of surroundings. You know, but it's scary. Too many times that's gone sideways because they come in hot, they come in aggressive.
I can't wait till Rick says about how to keep your gun safe and your ammunition somewhere else, and then the nightmare begins.
Yeah, but that's mostly when you're not with it. Or if you got kids and stuff, yeah. Yeah, but if you're home, you're with, you know, you have it right by you, have it on you. Storage, yeah, that's more so when you leave it. So if somebody were to break in and steal it, you can get in trouble. If you don't lock it up properly, that's where that security comes into play. Because if you just throw...
Somebody breaks into my house.
Yeah, if I broke in your house, you just have it laying there, or you just throw it in
No, it's in the safe outside. And they get it.
Well, that's different.
Over here, they steal the whole safe.
As long as it's secured properly. If I'm good enough to crack it, that's different. But if you just leave it laying there on the side, on a counter, and I just break in and steal it and I use it in a crime, now you can be in some trouble. Yeah.
No self-accountability of the person
No.
that's stealing it.
No, they just want to come after the legal gun owners any way that they can.
steal
I'm
the
telling
whole
you.
safe over here.
Yeah, they'll take the
That's
whole
a
safe.
fact.
Now that, and then if they get into it and use it, that's different. All right, you at least try to secure. At that point,
You prove that to the cops. Especially when a cop has one of the guns and he turns it in for.
Yeah, wait a second. I'm
gun
pretty sure I
shop.
realized that. Recognize that gun there. But yeah, you guys are all set. I think it was just the 4 of you that just didn't have any coverage. Anybody else? You guys all are good. Well, hey, I'm gonna let y'all get back to it.
Let's give them. Hey, if anyone's interested in firearms legal protection,
Yes, please.
see Kyle. He's going to be hanging out for a quick second. Thank him warmly and profusely for being here.
Thank you guys. I do appreciate it. I hope you guys stay safe out there. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
And it's rife full of considerations that we need to be aware of. I was looking to find the best way to actually present this all to you all, and I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to step through the actual statute itself and point out verbiage that I think is especially important to us all. This is the new changes in the law with respect to storage, okay? A lot of people are characterizing this as a response to incidents that have occurred, such as up at Michigan State. You guys are familiar with the young man. His name was Ethan Crumbly, the person who was recently sentenced, I believe, of just a matter of days ago. He was, from the Oxford shooting. He was given, if I'm not mistaken, he was given a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. And so a lot of people are characterizing, this safe storage law as a response to that case. And I say, in my personal opinion, I don't think so. In my personal opinion, the legislature passed this law because they're always trying to pass laws like this. It's now, after the recent elections we've had, in both nationally and here locally in our state, the anti-gun party is actually in charge of the legislature. And for years, they have been wanting to do something draconian with our gun laws. And they had an open opportunity, they seized it, and they did it. And the Safe Storage Protection Act, this is what they actually passed and implemented. And with the other prior two laws we talked about, this goes live on Valentine's Day. So bear with me as I actually step through the actual law as it exists. And it's not unduly long, but there are some things that as gun owners who have firearms that you really are going to need to pay particularly close attention to. And I will make this as painless as possible. Okay. Section 9(1). An individual who stores and leaves a firearm unattended on premises under the individual's control, and who knows or reasonably should know that a minor is or is likely to be present on the premises shall do one of the following. One of the following is A, store that firearm in a locked box or container, or B, keep the firearm unloaded and load the firearm in a locking device that is properly engaged, or to render the firearm inoperable by any individual other than the owner or an authorized user. C2. An individual who enters into the premises of another individual, stores or leaves a firearm unattended on the premises, and who knows or reasonably should know that a minor is or is likely to be present on the premises shall do one or more of the following. Store that firearm in a locked box or container. B, keep the firearm unloaded and lock the firearm with a locking device that is properly engaged to render the firearm inoperable by any individual other than the owner or an authorized user. C, before entering onto the premises, do both of the following. And here's the first of that, both of the following. If the individual's motor vehicle, store the firearm in a locked box or container in that vehicle, or keep that firearm unloaded and lock the firearm with a locking device that is properly engaged to render the firearm inoperable by any individual other than the owner or an authorized user. Right? Lock the individual's motor vehicle. Okay. If an individual is guilty, if the individual is guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by imprisonment for not more than 93 days or a fine of not more than $500 or both. If the individual violates, as we talked about before, subsection 1 and 2, by failing to store or leave a firearm in the required manner, and as a result of the violation, both of the following occur. A, the minor obtains the firearm. B, the minor does either of the following: possess or exhibits the firearm in a public place, possess or exhibits the firearm in the presence of another person in a careless, reckless, or threatening manner. If an individual violates subsection 1 or 2 by failing to store and leave a firearm in the required manner, and as a result of the violation, a minor obtains the firearm, discharges it, and inflicts injury upon the minor or any other individual, the individual is guilty of a felony punishable by imprisonment for not more than 5 years, or a fine is not more than $5,000, or both. If an individual violates subsection 1 or 2 by failing to store or leave a firearm in the required manner, and as a result of the violation, a minor obtains the firearm, discharges it, and inflicts serious impairment of a body function upon the minor or any individual, the individual is guilty of a felony punishable by not more than 10 years or a fine of not more than $7,500. So as we see here, we're starting to get some appreciable fines and some appreciable time. 7, let's see. This section does not apply under any of these following circumstances. So here's a list of things under which all the prescribed punishment for providing access of a firearm to a minor. This is a lengthy list, so bear with me, because it probably are a lot of different questions that you probably have in your mind, right? This section does not apply under any of the following circumstances. Let's see. A minor who does all of the following, okay? 1, obtains a firearm with the permission of the minor's parent or guardian. Or 2, uses or possesses the firearm while the minor is under the supervision of a minor's parent, guardian, or any individual who is 18 years of age or older and who is currently authorized by the person's parent or guardian. Okay, so go back here, let's see. Under 3, uses or possesses the firearm under the following. These, of course, where it's not an issue. A, the minor's employment. You have a minor and he needs to have access to a firearm, right? B, ranching or farming. C, target practice or instruction in the safe use of a firearm. Let's see. A minor who obtains a firearm with the permission of a minor's parent or guardian and uses or possesses the firearm for the purposes of hunting if the minor is in compliance with all other applicable hunting laws. A minor who obtains a firearm through the minor's unlawful entry of any premises or motor vehicle where the firearm has been stored. A minor who obtains a firearm while lawfully acting in self-defense or defense of another. Let's see. The Department of Health and Human Services shall do both of the following. In consultation with the Department of Attorney General, inform the public of penalties for failing to store the firearm in the manner acquired under this section. So yeah, in a nutshell, this whole situation with kids and guns is been addressed by the legislature. And this is the legislature's response, is to come up with a lot of penalties, both financial and both incarceration. Response or excuse? Well, see, my personal opinion is that I believe that there is a way to solve the adolescent child coming into contact with a firearm that doesn't result in such draconian measures. As I've been discussing this with a lot of people, both in person and online, you know, I actually, believe it or not, there are some firearms advocates and gun owners who are like, good, they're irresponsible. You know, punish them, throw the book at them, fine the hell out of them, incarcerate them. I think still that there's a better way.
Classes.
The better way, yes. The better way is education. The better way is training. A child as young as 12, and in some cases under 12, can, as the statute made reference to, can obtain a hunting license and be a licensed hunter in the state of Michigan under the auspices and supervision of a licensed hunter. There is no reason why we cannot take a more proactive approach by teaching children about guns. First, when you talk about teaching children about guns, as soon as they start that era of life where they're walking and talking, you know, start having those conversations. When they're really young, one program I like to mention to a lot of people is the NRA's Eddie Eagle program. Under NRA's Eddie Eagle program, it says it very quickly and succinctly. Tells children to stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell a responsible adult. One thing that will also be of benefit if you do this, well, let me ask a question. Are we still in an era or day or time in which we allow, say, our children or our grandchildren or any minors under our control, do we allow them to have sleepovers? Is that something that we still do?
Thank God it's over.
Like let them spend the night over someone's house? If you do that, I mean, obviously as a responsible parent or guardian, you're going to know something about the person whose house you're going to let your kid go over, right? You should, right? You know, or as best as you can, or at least do your due diligence. But there could be an opportunity if this child was staying over in someone's house who had not had conversations with their kids about guns. You would have to be placing a lot of blind faith and trust in that other adult, in that other location, in that other residence, as to whether they're going to be responsible with their firearms. By and large, a lot of people who are irresponsible with firearms are either people who, I mean, to be point blank, are people who have a problem with obeying the law. That's a nice way of saying it. People who don't like obeying the law, or people who are irresponsible. However, with our children, I mean, it is ultimately our greatest responsibility to keep them safe and to teach them and to train them. With respect to firearms itself and with small children, you know, there's nothing wrong with educating your kids about guns. And if you take a proactive approach with educating children, particularly whether they're your own children or whether they're your grandchildren, you know, teaching them about a gun, teaching them about its constituent parts, teaching them firearm safety, actually on an age-appropriate basis, actually take them to the gun range and teach them how to shoot. Some ranges based on their protocols or internal rules that they have. They may not allow children under a certain age to shoot, but once they reach a certain age, then yeah, they could do that at a range such as this. Or you could actually hunt, or excuse me, not hunt, but actually do target practice in a outdoor range. Some of you, and you know, I don't like making any assumptions, some of you might actually live in an area that's zoned for you to actually shoot, actually on your property. Some of you may not be. Depending on who you are and where you live, I mean, you may have that benefit. I know a couple of people in my social circle who actually have that great opportunity to be able to shoot legally on their own property. They effectively have a gun range like in the backyard. But yeah, I believe the better way to address the whole kids and guns thing is, I think one of you said earlier, we actually used to teach this stuff in the school systems years ago. But the people, you know,
Some of the stuff like ROTC still, I don't know about now, but they taught people, the young people.
They'd rather teach kids drag now.
well, I don't want to go down that path.
That's more important.
The path that I'm going down is there is a history and a culture in which we actually taught kids about gun safety in the educational school system. You know.
Lincoln Park, he had a gun range at the school.
Okay.
And some of the states probably out west, like Wyoming or whatever, probably still do.
Right.
Hillsdale College has a gun range.
And like I said, in some other states, they probably do things differently. We're in this state, so obviously we're going to have to operate under the auspices of the law that exists here. I believe that there have been some legislators. As a matter of fact, there's a proposed law a bill was introduced here in Michigan in which we teach kids about guns and firearm safeties in the school. Based on the political occupation of our state government, do not expect that legislation to have any traction whatsoever. It's one of those.
Going outside the window.
It's one of those, considering the circumstances, it's a symbolic gesture. But I don't look for anything to become of that unless we have some changes up in Lansing. Okay?
The USCCA has a youth program similar to the Eddie Eagle, where their training is in stages, and it's as low as 3 to 5, then 6 to 9, 10 to 13, and then like 14 to 18.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's better if you're proactive. You start early, you teach them. You start with Eddie Eagle or this other program that you're talking about. Stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell a responsible adult. Guard who has access to your children. Teach your kids, heaven forbid, that if they go to school and somehow some other kid brings a gun to school, you know, to make sure that you tell someone, you know, a gun is nothing to play with. And I think education is the better and the more effective way to go. The other people on the other side of the issue, they don't have any prescriptions. They don't have any solutions. All they're talking about is punishment. They're just going to sit back and wait for something bad to happen. And I think that's such a tragedy. I think it's a lost opportunity. Someone who, based on basically their carelessness, their negligence, or lawlessness, depending on how you want to look at it, through their own actions, someone who is very near and dear to them has been seriously injured and or killed, and while they're in their bereavement, now you're going to charge them and send them to prison. I mean, insult to injury. Personally, I can't imagine how you could punish someone more than them suffering the loss of a child or the loss of a grandchild. I don't know how you're going to actually do that. You might give them the time. You might actually fine them and financially penalize them. But I don't think there's anything that you could do that could hurt them more. But I believe education is the best policy. And hopefully one day we keep hope alive, and we are committed as true gun owners and true advocates of the Second Amendment that we continue to do our part. We continue to inform other people of what we're up against. Essentially, we're still in the negotiating phase. Well, what do you mean negotiating phase? There are some people who are tired of talking to gun people, and they're just waiting for the next war to start, quite bluntly. I haven't yet given up on the process. I still believe that there's a political solution to this, and that's going to be incumbent on pro-gun people being elected to our state legislature. And I'm committed to doing that. I'm committed to do talks like this that I did today. I'm committed to doing it in other places as much as I can. And if there's someone out there who's interested in having me come out to their community, hopefully someone's watching this broadcast or watching this video, have them contact me and let's put together a plan and let's talk. Let's make it happen. Before I conclude, are there any other questions or feedback or something that someone wants to share?
We
Yes.
do realize all this is about control.
We know that.
We know that. Okay. Sometimes that you don't hear it enough.
True gun people know that.
Yeah, we know that. Anybody else?
You made my day, by the way.
You made my day by coming. You know what? And for that, let me reciprocate what you just shared. He said, I made his day by putting on this event. Let me trust and believe. You all made my day by actually being here, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Some of you, I've talked to a lot in the past and have not seen in a while. Some things got in the way, like the pandemic and other stuff, life. But let me tell you, I am truly happy that each and every one of you came out. Leave positive feedback, let people know what we talked about here, share it. If there's other groups out there that are interested in hosting an event of this sort, please have them reach out to me and contact me. I have the least private phone number on planet Earth. When I first became a trainer, I said I wasn't going to be like many other people who were operating at that time. And I'm not, being, negative. They're running a business and they put the name of their business and they might have an email address. I said, no, I'm going to put my name literally on the activity, right? Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit, legally armed in Detroit. My phone number is, right? And that's blazoned everywhere. Watch, 313-733-7404. Again, thank you all for participating, and I appreciate you all, and thank you.
I was wondering if you